Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video. Got a lot to go over in today's video, including I want to talk a little bit more about the Radeon VII because I think yesterday's video, a lot of you guys commented on that video, got a lot of dislikes on that video. Maybe I didn't come across it the right way, and maybe I didn't explain myself to the best of my abilities, but I want to give you guys more of my opinion on that and why I was so negative towards the Radeon VII, and it's really not me just thinking that this is an awful GPU. Maybe I could have titled that video a little bit better, but just objectively speaking and seeing how the consumers react to AMD in general, I just don't think the Radeon VII is going to make a big impact on the market, and I'll get into that later. But also right now, there are 3 free PC games available right now. One of them is kind of a meme, but 2 of them are legitimately really great. So I'll give you guys a mention on all 3 of those, and actually the one game that I said was a meme has a 96% positive reception on Steam. It's a game that I'm not all too familiar with, so that's unfair me calling it a meme. That's another free game. So we got 3 free PC games to go over, and also the Division 2 system requirements have been revealed. That game, of course, will not be coming to Steam. Rather, it will be coming to Uplay and the Epic Store. We've already been vocal about that, but the system requirements have come out, and Ubisoft did a really good thing with this game's system requirements, as it has been broken down into 4 tiers, and they were very specific in terms of what resolution and what FPS to expect out of each of the requirements, so that's really great. And again, just breaking it down into 4 tiers, that's very nice of them to do as well. So first up, let's talk a little bit more about the Radeon VII, because a lot of you guys gave me some backlash on that video, but let me come at the Radeon VII from a different angle. I'm just naturally gonna come at it at a different angle because I do anecdotally have a bigger sample size of people that I just generally see comment on my videos and people that I just interact with on Twitter, and I just generally see how people receive AMD, more so apart from just my comment section, but the overall spectrum of PC gaming, that I know that AMD more than Nvidia really has to go above and beyond to reach out to the mainstream audience. Yes, it's a fine GPU, and honestly, if this GPU was called like the Nvidia GTX 7, it would be a very well-received GPU, but because it's AMD, because they have that stigma inherently attached to them, I just know for them to break into the mainstream high-end PC hardware market, they have to go above and beyond, and I feel like we didn't see that with the Radeon VII. Is the Radeon VII a great value? Yes, I said that in the video. It's $699 expensive, but that's pretty comparable to the 2080, and based on the early numbers we've seen thus far, it does look like the Radeon VII edges out the 2080 just by a little bit. They go back and forth, so I won't make a definitive conclusion on that until we get some more official numbers out. But also, the killer deal with the Radeon VII is that you get 3 major games with it for free. Devil May Cry 5, Tom Clancy's The Division 2, and the Resident Evil 2 remake. I value that very highly. However, whenever I've mentioned those games being added value to these graphics cards, the general response that I see from gamers is, we don't care about these games, we don't have any interest in these games, and I see that over and over again, which is really surprising to me. Yes, there is a subsect of gamers that definitely do have interest in these games, but I think in most cases, if you do have interest in any of these games, it's usually 1, maybe 2 of these games, or in a lot of cases, it's literally none of those games, which is very surprising to me. But I guess that's where I differ from a lot of people that are PC gamers, in that I do like the console-oriented experiences on PC with better visuals. A Resident Evil 2 remake, maybe generally that's an experience that's more associated to console gaming. Devil May Cry 5 is definitely a game that's more associated to console gaming. I'm still very much interested in those games on PC, but it really opened my eyes that not all PC gamers are super into these games, and even those, and they're in the market for these high-quality GPUs, that they're not the same people that are going to be picking up these games. They do cross over a little bit, but I think it's lesser so than people expected. That's where I'm coming from. I just don't think the Radeon VII is gonna make Nvidia shake in their boots, and that's what we need. Nvidia has been on cruise control for so long, and we need something that actually pushes them and pushes prices lower. Maybe in the case of the Radeon VII, that'll get Nvidia to make more agreements with publishers to get games bundled in with their GPUs. That's great, and that's good for the consumer, but I want more than that. Maybe that's just me being a little bit greedy, and I have to temper my expectations, and what we're getting is pretty good, but that's where I'm coming from, so hope I gave you guys some clarity on my vantage point for now. Moving on from that, let's talk about the free games that are available right now. We've got 3 free games, 2 of them available on Steam. Well, one of them's on Humble, but you get a Steam key, and the other one is exclusive to the Epic Game Store. So over on Humble, you can get A Story About My Uncle, and that is a very well-received game. Over on Steam, on Metacritic, it's got a 73, but I've noticed with these smaller and more niche titles that they're usually received a little bit worse by the critics than by the consumer. I think consumers are just generally very surprised by games like A Story About My Uncle. That a 73 from the critics doesn't really tell the entire story. It's a first-person adventure parkour game. Got some really cool gameplay mechanics. It's a little bit older of a title, releasing all the way back back in 2014, so technically speaking, back then it wasn't anything to write home about. So now in 2019, maybe not incredible on that end, but it's a game that I would highly recommend you guys to check out. Again, a very good narrative in here as well. I mean, any game with story in their title probably has a pretty good narrative, so check that out. That game is available on Humble. And then a little game that's available on Steam free right now. It's an early access title, but if you add it to your library right now, it's yours to keep forever, and that is Blast Zone Tournament. Blast Zone Tournament is described as a fast-paced game where fun meets explosive combat, and you take on challenges in a fully loaded single-player campaign to level up and prepare to compete in numerous multiplayer arenas. You team up with friends and blast opponents as you go head-to-head to see who will be the last bomber standing. It's time to ignite your fuse and blast your way to the top of the leaderboards. So because this is a multiplayer-driven game, and because the community doesn't look to be all too big right now, offering this game free right now I think is going to do a lot for the game's community, so that's pretty nice. Add it to your library right now, and again, that's a game for you to keep forever. And then also available right now free over on the Epic Game Store is What Remains of Edith Finch. This is a tremendous game. Metacritic did this game justice. It's at an 89, but it is a tremendous game by a little studio known as Giant Sparrow. They also did a game called Unfinished Swan on the PlayStation 3, and that game was tremendous. What Remains of Edith Finch is a collection of short stories, and it tells the story of a family and how everybody in that family disappeared. It's a walking simulator, but it's got a great story, very atmospheric, and to get this game free right now is pretty substantial. This isn't a game that's all too old. It released back in April of 2017, so it's not like this is a 5 or 6 year old game. And again, on Steam, this game has an overwhelmingly positive feedback based on 9,100 reviews, and it's just been generally well received by gamers. So for Epic Games to work out a deal with Giant Sparrow to get What Remains of Edith Finch, I think that's pretty substantial, and it goes to show that they're continuing to offer great free games every 2 weeks. They started off with Subnautica, then they got Super Meat Boy, and now they got What Remains of Edith Finch. I think their next offering isn't all too great. Yeah, they've already revealed that, and that is the Jackbox Party Pack, something that isn't really up my alley, but again, that's gonna be a free game in 2 weeks, and that is a $25 title. But right now, you can get What Remains of Edith Finch. That is an excellent offering, so check that out over at the Epic Game Store. I know a lot of you guys are still adverse to hopping on board to that, but if you're already playing Fortnite, you already have the Epic Store downloaded. So for those of you that have Fortnite, it's just free downloads for you to snag up, and you can always just download the application, not invest any money into it, and just snag up all the free games, so why not? And lastly, I do want to go over the Division 2 system requirements that have been released on PC, and Ubisoft did a great job with this game, not with the fact that it's exclusive to the Epic Store and Uplay, but with the fact that the requirements have been broken up into 4 tiers, and each tier lists specifically what resolution and what frame rate to expect. They don't go over what settings to expect, but I would imagine it would be rather on the high end. So minimum requirements, and this is for 1080p 30 frames per second, you're looking at an AMD FX 6350 or an Intel Core i5 2500K as the CPU. 2500K, one of the most iconic CPUs of all time. That's the Sandy Bridge i5. Great to see that still doing work. Minimum RAM requirement is 8GB, and then GPU, you're looking at a Radeon R9 270 or an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 670. Cool to see the 670 still holding up. And that's at 2GB of VRAM. Then recommended will be at 1080p and 60 frames per second. Recommended CPU for that is an AMD Ryzen 5 1500X, Intel Core i7 4790. RAM is 8GB, and then the GPU requirement for recommended, again, 1080p 60 FPS gameplay, you're looking at an RX 480 or a GeForce GTX 970. Those are 4GB GPUs. I believe the 970 might actually be a little bit better than the 480. Honestly, off the top of my head, I'm not all too sure, but we'll see how that plays out. And then they also have requirements listed for high. That's 1440p and 60 FPS. For the CPU on that, you're going to need a Ryzen 7 1700 or an Intel Core i7 6700K, 16GB of RAM, an AMD RX Vega 56 or an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1070. Those are 8GB GPUs, so not crazy stuff there. I mean, the 1070 is a last-gen GPU, so to see it hold up for 1440p and 60 FPS, that's pretty good. But then they also have the final set of requirements, and that is Elite 4K 60 FPS, so you're going to need some beefy stuff for that. The Elite CPU requirement is an AMD Ryzen 7 2700X or an Intel Core i9 7900X, 16GB of RAM, and then the GPU, the AMD Radeon 7 or the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti. 11GB of VRAM for that. And again, the Division 2 drops on March 15th. It'll be exclusive to the Epic Games Store and the Ubisoft Store. And if you do pre-order the game, you will get access to the private beta, so that's something I thought I would note. But that's going to conclude this video, guys. Again, I hope I was able to give you guys some clarity on my stance on the Radeon 7. Get those 3 free PC games right now. Story About My Uncle on Humble, Blast Zone Tournament directly from Steam, and What Remains of Edith Finch over at the Epic Games Store. And those are the Division 2 requirements as well. 4 tiers of requirements. So good stuff there. That's going to wrap up this one. If you guys have a request for a future video, you can leave that in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush here again. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you guys might know, YouTube's notification system is sometimes a little bit wonky, even if you're subscribed to the channel. Maybe you're not abundantly aware that I uploaded a video. To remedy that situation, make sure you hit the bell notification button. This way, whenever I upload a new video, and I try to upload as consistently as possible, you will be notified directly of the upload, and you can watch it as soon as it goes live. I would really appreciate it if you guys hit that button so you can stay up to date with all of the content I'm posting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.